So a question I get asked frequently is treadmill running good for you or is it bad for you? Should I be training on the treadmill and racing on the roads? So this is obviously a common question, and I think a lot of people, there's a lot of confusion around it. I'm just going to talk today about the benefits and the impact that running on treadmill can have for your training, whether they be positive or whether they be negative when it comes to race day. And I think there's arguments for both sides of it. So the number one rule when you're running on the treadmill, and a lot of people don't understand why this is, but there are obviously studies showing this, and this is why this number floats around, is that you should have the treadmill at least a 1% gradient. This kind of recreates a lot more of the sensation and a lot more of the effort that you would have if you're running on the road as opposed to the treadmill. If you're running on the treadmill with no gradient at all, it's actually a lot easier than it is running on the road. So this is why a lot of people feel like running on the treadmill is so much easier. You can run at a lower heart rate, lower effort and easier efficiency as opposed to running outside on the road. And that's because obviously you're not using the muscles completely in the natural form. The movement of the treadmill itself is throwing your legs backwards, so it's taking away some of that effort that you need to put out on the road to carry this momentum yourself naturally and to move yourself on forwards. You should have at least a 1% gradient on the treadmill to obviously try and recreate a little bit of resistance with that slight uphill gradient that would recreate what you're doing on the road. If you're training for hilly races, if you're training for mountains, then a treadmill can obviously be a great training tool, especially if you live in a city. So this is something I get asked all the time. How do I train for hills if I live in a city or if I live in a pan-flat neighbourhood or area or region? A lot of people do, and they want to race in the mountains, and it's obviously quite confusing and quite difficult of how to really get this into your training program. So obviously that's where a treadmill comes in. You can whack the treadmill up to a nice steep gradient. Obviously running on the treadmill can recreate running up the hill, so you can do a hill session on a treadmill. You can obviously do a long steep run with just pure ascent if you really wanted to. So a treadmill is obviously an incredible tool for that, and if you use a treadmill properly, it can obviously be a great addition to your training by allowing you to train for hills, to train for mountains if you live in a region or an area that doesn't have any. And then obviously a treadmill is obviously practical as well if you live in a busy town or city and you want to do a speed session and perhaps the parks are too busy, or if you're a busy working person, you're trying to fit your running in around your schedule, you're commuting back and forth to work. If you have a treadmill or gym nearby at your place of work, obviously it's a great lunchtime routine. I know a lot of people, and I work with a lot of clients in fact, that do a fair amount of their running in their lunch break on the treadmill purely for the efficiency and the ease of it, as opposed to going out there and stepping into a busy park or in midday heat if you're someone that's super hot. Obviously time right now it's pretty hot. I've just only done a few kilometers on the treadmill and I'm soaked. Being in a nice kind of air-conditioned gym obviously can give you a bit of break from that midday heat if that's where you're training. You can get a good run on the treadmill still. Something you have to take into account when you're running on the treadmill is that treadmills are often a lot softer than running on the road. You're getting a lot more give in the treadmill. It's taking away that initial impact that you have from the road. So it's obviously good for your muscles, good for your legs regarding that. There's less impact forces. It's a great way to build up. If you're building up your mileage and perhaps your legs are starting to feel a bit knackered from all the pounding on the road, then just getting on the treadmill for some easy miles. As I said before, you have that extra cushioning, you have that extra give with each stride, then it's allowing you to have a bit more recovery there and less pounding on your legs, and still working the running muscles, so building up that volume, which is really what you're trying to do if you're training for the longer races. So should you purely train on the treadmill alone? I don't believe you should. I don't think it's a good idea to just train on the treadmill. Obviously you're not purely recreating the action of running on the road, you're not getting that impact, you're not getting the full benefit, and you're not adventuring. Obviously going on the treadmill, a lot of people call it the treadmill. I don't purely enjoy it much myself. I know a lot of people that do. It's a great motivating factor, and obviously it keeps you running at pace if that's what your goal is. So if you're doing a speed session where you want to get some hills in, there's no escaping it. If you set it up and you don't allow yourself to touch it, you're being quite strict, then obviously it's a great way to make sure you get that speed efforts in. But training on the road, training on the trails, training on the mountain, obviously nothing beats that, and I believe the treadmill, the best way to use it is just to try and recreate those conditions to allow you to build the fitness that you want to build, so you can go out there and you can explore when you've got more time, or when you're in a nicer environment, perhaps you're out of the city, you go for a nice little adventure somewhere. The treadmill has been a great training tool to add to your training to allow you to really explore and have the adventures that you want to do. If you're aiming to race on the road, you really need to get the road training in, you need to get those hard miles in, and you need to be able to work on your running form on the roads and know how to race on the roads. Because a lot of people try and get away with just doing the treadmill because it's more convenient for them. When it gets to race day, then they're trying to run on the roads and they're just getting completely beaten up. It doesn't have to feel like this. A lot of people run on the roads a lot and do a lot of hard miles on the roads. Obviously it teaches you to run in a more economical, efficient manner and not smash down on your legs all the time, so you can actually be more efficient on the road. So don't rely on the treadmill alone. If you're racing on the roads, A bit of treadmill is great, it's obviously a great convenient tool, but make sure you get those road miles in, make sure you get some intervals and some efforts on the road as well, and you'll be much more prepared for race day. Okay, so let me know your thoughts, guys. Do you train on treadmill? Do you think it's a benefit for your training, or do you think it's a hindrance? Give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and if you've got more questions or anything more detailed, you can always email me at harryrunsuk@gmail.com, or you can check out my website, harryruns.com, and there'll be a lot more kind of information, more content going up on that soon as well, so watch that space. But thanks for watching, guys, and happy running.